Morning everyone, we're back. I just went to Mohawk or Wood Repair Products to get a few items. Don't forget, if you want to save 5% off at Wood Repair Products, use the code MORE5 off at checkout and you'll save 5% on your order. Let's get to work. I really want to free up the table space for this, so first thing I'm going to do is go through this with the 150 grit by hand. Ivan has already gone through this with the machine, sanded it, done some repairs, and I actually found one little chip right here. We'll put that in after. We'll go through it again, sand all this epoxy, get all the grain going straight so that way any swirl marks are out of it. We're going to do like sanding like that around the entire frame. Check all these corners. We're going to kind of just knock off that sharp edge, because that's usually how these veneers start peeling, is that edge will get a little fraction of an inch of like overhang. Your rag or clothes or just something along that nature will catch it and peel it off. So I said it's really important to hit these with a block if you want like a really nice finish. If you just go with the machine sanding, you might see some micro swirl marks. If you go heavy grit, you're going to start seeing a lot of swirl marks like that Cofemo chair. You see large swirls from probably 80 grit, and even it could be even higher than that, something like 60 grit. So I think at lunchtime, remember the glass from yesterday, how it was all beat up and busted? We're going to take one of them over to the glass shop, have them give us an estimate, see how much it's going to cost to either replace it, or maybe it's possible they could repair it. Most glass shops won't touch another person's piece of glass. They will only cut new. So I'll go over to these people. They've been doing my stuff for years. It's a place called Green's Glass over in Garden Grove. So I said I'm going to go do that in just a little bit, because this piece will be going into the spray booth maybe in about an hour. So we'll be ready to go. You can see like we're kind of on the hand sanding. I've gone around the entire piece. It's been about 45 minutes. Went around all the edges, the corners, and in that time, like up here, I found some chips that that were missing. Another one up on top. There was a large dent on the back. Did all of the repair work, added the epoxy. I'm going to let this dry. First, we're going to go load up a piece of the glass that goes on the side. Take it over to Green's Glass. Have them give us a quote, or even see if they could fix it. I highly doubt, like I said, that they will cut the little broken sections off the side, but like I said, we'll see if they, you never know, they might see, they might be able to do something with it, make it look a little better. It is always better to have the original glass, like I mentioned yesterday with those little details of the little holes that are in the side. It may be a signature of that piece. If you get new glass made, you're not going to have those. I think I got that. I want to show you the Rosewood Credenza that Ivan's been working on, yesterday afternoon and this morning. It's 95% of the way there. All the repairs are done. You can start seeing all the grain kind of coming out from that rosewood. The back panel is like about the last thing we have to get sanded. It's got a lot of the swirl marks from the sanding machine. And then I think at that point it's just hand sanding one more time, hitting inside, and then by hopefully 3 o'clock this will be down the line and get ready to go in the spray booth tomorrow. Okay, Ivan is about 99% done on this piece, but I wanted to hop on here and just explain one thing. I forgot to remove these. On the top side, it has plastic slides where the doors go through. I forgot that the upper side had it as well. So what I'm going to do is remove this, because if you spray lacquer over these, it's not going to stick. You're just going to get lacquer peeling off, and it's going to look bad. So I said some of them are harder to get out than others. This one here is, these ones were pretty easy, but we're going to make sure we label it so we know, okay, these were the tops. As you can see, there's a little wood spacer for the back door. These ones here are a little shorter. So it's like, it'll just make it easier upon completion. It'll just make us, not have to guess which one goes where. So I'm going to just wrap it up with a little bit of tape, and then I'll kind of just write the, upper. So we know that I think I put the other one as bottom. So we'll get these in the office. I think Ivan's got to just do one little sponging. We'll blow this out and we'll get it back in the spray booth. Now it doesn't even look like the same cabinet that came in. Remember how the top was all faded and some, like, there were spots everywhere? But the biggest thing was this large piece of veneer that got peeled off. When we flipped it over, I touched it, kind of gave it the feel test. It has a little bump to it, which I'm going to use this hard rubber block and some of the 220 and just give it a little block sanding. So that way we can make sure it's nice and flat. You could also use a piece of wood. That will work too. But I really like these blocks over here that we buy over at Mohawk. So that now it's nice and flat. To get a block like this, same thing, just go to woodrepairproducts.com, order it. I do have a checklist on my website with every material and tool, product number, and then hyperlink, so you can just go straight to the website and purchase it. So we're back to this. Now we're just going to sponge that section one more time, just to make sure that it's all the same, smoothness as the rest of it. And then one final blowing off with the air hose. And then this thing is ready to go down the line. Another good news, Ivan and I finished the pieces at the same time. We're going to roll that desktop over, get that blown off, because it's ready to go as well. Now that that one's done, we can get this rosewood on this cart. We use a bunch of these old milk crates and some old dollies that have been here probably for longer than I've been alive. Some of these dollies are probably 30, 40 years old. So it's really, I have not made a dolly myself. I've only repaired the ones that are here. So we'll set it down carefully. I'm going to blow it, or roll it down behind you. Take it by the door again, and then we're going to blow it off one more time. Make sure that all the dust is out of the boxes, off the surface. Then we're going to take it down in the alley. When we get to spraying, we're going to wipe it down with acetone. Make sure that that rosewood doesn't have any of those oils coming out that can cause adhesion issues. You don't want that. It's really important too to not use this air hose and get right up on top of it. If you have any loose veneer, this air could just blow it right off if it's dried out, kind of weakened. Yes, you do want to find it, but you would rather find it by feeling it and touching it versus using this air hose, because it could blow off a huge chunk of veneer and then get you right back into the repair mode when you think you're almost done. So that one's ready to go. We'll roll it back down into the corner and get on to the next pieces. Now that those are ready, I'm going to get the next pieces set up, which I'm going to work on, I think, the Cofemo chair and the Phillipon chair. And Ivan's going to work on these, which are really difficult to work, to sand. He's got to leave here shortly, so you're going to see me working on these later this afternoon. But it's the Phillipon door panels that go to the little credenza. This is all like a piece of plywood, and then they heat it up, mold it, steam it, whatever it is to get this look. So all of this veneer is a little thin, so you really have to do a lot of this by hand. A lot of hand sanding on this side. The rear side, which is a little bit better, is easier to use a machine. You can see here had a bunch of dings on it. My guess is that there was stuff inside the cabinet. When they opened and closed this door, every time they did it, they were denting it up. So I even filled that over the weekend. And I said, these are really difficult to sand. Imagine doing that on the Phillipon wall unit that you could see on my Instagram page. It's a $180,000 piece of furniture that we restored. It had 21 of these, and they were even thinner because it was made out of 1/4-inch plywood. Not this. This looks like it's about 1/2 inch, if not a little bit more, probably 5/8. So this has a little bit more give than those other pieces. But stay tuned. We'll get that going. We are back on that Cofemo chair. I've already got 3 of the panels prepped. This is the last one. First thing I'm doing is hitting it with the 150 grit, because Ivan came in over the weekend, did all the repairs, kind of steamed out some of the dents. You can see large section of epoxy. The sections we don't even see, we want to fill. It just makes us look better. I said I'm gonna fill. It's hard to tell on the camera, but I'm going to fill where these little T-nuts used to be, so that way when we come back, it'll grab new meat. We'll put it, we'll spin it a little bit over, so it grabs somewhere fresh and gives us something, tighter to grab to. I said, first thing, I'm going to go around, hit these edges with the 150 grit. First off, let me remove a piece of paper. That one's pretty dull. And then we're just going to go around carefully. Okay, so now we got the rough sanding done. I've been noticing as I've gone around, there's some loose veneer, little spots that need a little bit of repair. So we're going to jump in before we put any more epoxy. I'm just going to carefully go around and put this in. Most of it's around these little holes where the T-nuts were, just because, like I said, they were loose. So every time they moved, they were probably cracking the veneer ever so slightly. Just a little bit of play, and I said now it's loose. Let's flip it to the other side. And so it's just a process that we have here. We follow the same steps on every piece of furniture. And that's why I decided to write that refinishing book. It's 240 pages of the standard refinishing process here in the shop. Kind of like a owner's manual. If something, like if I hired a new employee, I could tell them to read this book, learn it, and they would learn, probably 50% of like what we do in the shop without having to be here actively, learning. I think it'll speed up like the training process. I haven't hired any new employees lately. That's why it's like I've been teaching all of you online. You guys are my test subjects right now to see how it works. And from what I'm hearing, it's going really well. All the reviews I've been getting and messages I get on Instagram are really warming that all the stuff that I put this time into has paid off. A lot of you are learning a lot of techniques that you never knew before. The tools and materials is the biggest thing. When I'm on the Facebook refinishing groups, that's the biggest question I see is what material do I use? What kind of glue? What type of finish? I said I have all those answers for you inside of the book or inside of that private refinishing community. I go in there, that's the only place I answer questions and kind of teach people step by step in the refinishing process. So there's a big crack right here in the veneer. There we go. Let that run down. Yeah, so I said we're going to go around. I'm going to put a little bit more epoxy. I'm going to check this first before doing that. I'm just going to go around one more time, evaluate it, and then mix up the epoxy. Okay, so now I got that all prepped and glued. So what I'm going to do is mix up this epoxy. And I'm actually going to use two different colors because this one's going to stay a natural color wood, which is, this, I'll just show you, that natural kind of warmish golden color. Then I don't want to go too dark with this epoxy filler. I want to make sure it is light enough to be able to touch up. I'd rather have it one shade too light than going darker because it's very, very hard to touch up, especially when you're going light. If this was going to get stained dark walnut or dark mahogany, very easy to hide these different color epoxies. But we were trying to get it spot on so that way with a minor touch up, it'll just blend in and and just go away. We don't want to see it anymore. So just go around. Like I mentioned, I'm just filling all those holes from where the T-nuts dug in. I go around carefully. Let's see if I can get a better view of this guy. There we go. Let's see. There we go. That's a little bit better. I said that's the biggest issue, is just getting this epoxy on smooth so that way you don't have to sand it as much. I know this veneer is fairly thin because somebody refinished it before, so it's just better to take care and put a little less epoxy on. And then I said I'm always checking, going around the entire piece. And we're back to the opposing side. Just like that. And I said just work it really nice. These putty knives are amazing. Once again, you could order these from Wood Repair Products. They have the, I buy 2 different types of these. So it's like, it's very beneficial. Instead of trying to use your fingers or a chisel, these little putty knives work wonders when doing touch-ups and repairs. Okay, these are ready to go. We're going to let those dry. I'm going to get back on these door panels for that Antoine Phillipon Credenza that's already ready for stain. Ivan's done probably 50% of the work on them already. I'm going to come in, give them another sanding, and then we may need a little bit more epoxy or fill work. And I said we're going to first hit the back sides because it's you're able to, because of the way it's molded. Actually, I'm going to turn it back on, turn the power back on. And there we go. So now you can see that we've sanded these 2 sides, and I'm really, like I said, I'm really happy. They feel pretty thick. The veneer on this doesn't seem super thin, but I don't know if I really want to do the sander on the opposing side just because of the way it's angled. A lot of this is going to be, very likely that it could pass in these little corners. So I'm going to hit the rest of this and then the other one, and we'll come back and show you how we're going to prep deck and hand sand all of these little edges. Alright, I got most of the sanding done on this first one. For backside, it's just about done. I'm hitting it with a little bit of 150, kind of get in these little grooves, little low spots. I think it's just about ready, so we'll flip it back over. We'll do the 220 later. I've already hit all the edges. Now we'll go back to the front side, take my 150 with the block again. And I said at this point we can kind of hit this just carefully. But I think the veneer is thicker than I assumed it was, which is really good. But you can't go cross grain, anything like that. All the grain is straight, so you have to kind of angle the block to get in that little that little crevice. And then just slowly work our way around it. Start knocking it down, getting all the little swirl marks out. Then we'll remove the block and we'll do it by hand. That way, then we can kind of hit the rest of it, get all the old stain out. Now I'm just hitting the top side with a little bit more of that 220. Then I'll take my sanding sponge and just slowly work my way around. This will kind of polish it up, get that last little bit of, like I call it fuzz, off of the surface. So when we're done, it'll be glass smooth, ready to stain. So it just takes time. And these are always a little weird because they want to rock back and forth while you're sanding them. So you really got to hold them down, spin it the opposite direction. I can hit the other side, keeping a little pressure down here. I'll just blow this one off here in a second, and then get it hung up. This one's ready to go. Okay, one last thing before I go home, so that way it dries up. These bent plywood, it's very possible, and I've seen it a few times on chairs like this, that some of the laminate starts to delaminate. It's just bent plywood, so if it gets abused over the years, let me get a little bit of that glue in there. We'll kind of pour it in and wiggle it so that way the glue will run down that crack. And there's about 3 or 4 of them here, so it's like this bend has a little bit of of wear and tear. Open it up, kind of wiggle it, and it's slowly working its way down the veneer, down the plywood into the sections that are hollow. And with the trick with this, when doing these kind of repairs, I'm going to run a little bit of glue in it, clean it up, and then kind of do it 1 or 2 times, and then I'm just going to put a clamp on it overnight to squeeze it tight. That way you don't want to activate it. Like I always mention, the super glue is a little bit more brittle, so by activating it, it actually feels like it makes it more brittle, chips easier. If we just let time do its thing, the super glue will dry. And so I'm going to just open up just one of these like squeeze clamps and just slowly just put a little bit of pressure on it. Doesn't really want to hold too well. Let me see what I could do. Maybe I'll put it on the top. So I don't need, it's not going to hold. I just want it to, there we go, that's better. It's just going to keep this closed, so I'm going to do one more. Now that it's there, I can run a little bit more of the glue in this little joint, this little separation. Tomorrow I'll probably check the bottom side and see if that's delaminating as well. Just let that sit there, get a little bit more of my wax wash ready. Yeah, I said it's not soaking in anymore, which means we're pretty much good to go on it. So I'm going to just let it sit here at the table. We'll let this dry overnight. I'm going to clean up the shop, get blown off, and then we'll get out of here for the day. Okay. We're going to let that Phillipon chair dry up overnight. Come back tomorrow, finish sanding the Cofemo chair. We're going to finish the second door for the Phillipon cabinet. And then I think we're going to start staining and get a few of these pieces in the spray booth, along with a few other projects. Maybe taking apart that desk that's behind us so we can start evaluating how are we going to correct it. And then we have a few new projects that came in a couple weeks ago, and we'll pull them out and get them started. So once again, thank you for being here. Like and subscribe down below if this is a channel that you enjoy, and leave a comment. Let me know if you want some, to see something special with the restorations, some little trick, a technique, something that I could teach you and better help your refinishing career. Thanks. Have a good night, guys.